News First U reporter Chandrasena Gamage from Rana filed this report on an arson attack on the home of a murder and assault suspect in Tangol.
An unidentified group set fire last night to the home of a suspect in an incident where a group broke into a home in Dankete, Tangol on the 11th of August, killed one person and caused serious injury to 3 others. The house, which is located in Dankete, Tangol, was gutted by the blaze. There was no persons inside the house when it was set on fire.
මම News First U reporter Chandrasena Gamage රන්නේ සිට.
A breakfast briefing on the impact of policies concerning the internet on innovation and economic growth was held in Colombo this morning.
The breakfast briefing, which saw the participation of a number of ICT professionals and experts in the field, was to learn from the successes and failures of the implementations of policies concerning the internet around the region and its impact on innovation and economic growth of these countries. Delivering the keynote address, Anne Lavin, Google's Director of Policy and Government Affairs in Greater China and Asian growth markets, spoke on the importance of open data on the internet.
Don't lose sight of open data, of the ability of getting government data in particular available, so not only that the government uses it better, researchers use it better, but you've got a country filled with really smart people who have a great aptitude for doing cool things online, and they're going to find ways in Sri Lanka and in other countries of the world to take this open data and turn it into businesses.
News First correspondent Asela Dharmavansa recently visited Madirigiriya to make inquiries into the fate that had befallen 50 agrarian families in the village of Nikahena.
This shack was not erected for farmers to protect their crops at night. It is a temporary shelter for these families to safeguard themselves from a nightly terror. Most families in the village of Nikahena spend their nights in these shacks. Last week alone, 10 homes in the village were damaged in wild elephant attacks. The elephants began encroaching on our farmland as the harvest drew close. We have been here for about 40 years and need help reconstructing our homes. They said they would come here to chase away the elephants. We are still waiting. The villagers say the elephants which encroach on their lands come here at night from the Somavati Reserve. The 37th National Conference of Chartered Accountants themed Innovative to Grow is scheduled to take place next month. An event to raise awareness on the event took place in Colombo last evening. The National Conference is incidentally the biggest assembly of intellectual dissemination in the country. At the media briefing, it was revealed that the 37th National Conference of Chartered Accountants will see a record number of participants.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Albert Einstein said,
When it comes to local and global news that matters to you, News First is the leader.
Today, a workshop was held at the auditorium of the head office of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited for our provincial radio correspondents who are dedicated to the success of News First.
This workshop saw the participation of News First radio correspondents spread throughout the island, with News First senior management lending their expertise as resource personnel. The participants were educated on the duties of provincial correspondents, reporting on rural news stories, investigative journalism and new media. We praise News First for holding such a workshop. I learnt a lot of new things at this workshop that I did not know before.
we are all together at this moment and we were introduced as a team.
We learnt a lot from today's workshop and we learnt a lot about the value of provincial correspondence. Our provincial reporters were also educated on the operations at News First Centre.
Up next is Action TV.
Although Nidanwala, located on the border of Madhuroya in Arlagangvilla, was established as a settlement under the Mahaveli B zone, as a result of the war it lost most of its populace. However, farms in Nidanwala are still being cultivated. In addition, following the end of the war, a new industry was commenced on lands bordering Nidanwala. This industry is the manufacture of bricks. Civil Defence Force personnel were employed for this purpose. The manufacturing of bricks took place at a location not far from the Madhuroya Reserve, which is located on the borders of the Thoppigala forest. The brick industry is one of the threats facing the continuity of forests in the dry zone. Wood is used to bake these bricks since there is high demand for bricks baked using wood. This footage bears testament to the fact that there is no shortage of wood to be used for the brick industry in Nidanwala. Kumuk trees have also been cut down for use in baking bricks inside the Madhuroya Reserve, where wildlife and forest conservation authorities enforce the law to the letter, even when a farmer takes his cattle inside the reserve to graze. The importance of using Civil Defence Force personnel whose jobs were made redundant with the end of the war in fruitful economic ventures cannot be belittled. A report released recently also notes the contribution that has been made by the Civil Defence Department to the national economy as a result of these economic activities. If such harm is being caused while making such valuable contributions, then it is evident that the economic activity of the Civil Defence Department is not sustainable. Also, as a result of such activity, forests which remained intact during the war could turn into desert. Considering the impact on the Madhuroya Reserve and disregarding the impact on brick baking and the Civil Defence Department, shouldn't steps be taken by the authorities to enforce the law in this matter? Director General of Wildlife, this is over to you.
Hosts Nepal beat defending champions India 2-1 in their Group A encounter at the South Asian Football Championships.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka team coach, he explained the reasons for the Sri Lankan team falling behind. He said that the quality of the game is at a low standard in the country, which has in turn affected the performance of the team.
The Nepal Group A team won 2 games and lost 1 in the first round. Thus, India and Nepal qualified for the semi-final. Both teams were not able to score in the first half of the game. However, the game ended with a 2-1 win to Nepal. Meanwhile, the Sri Lankan B team lost to the Maldives 10-0 in their first match. This is the highest number of goals scored by a team at the South Asian Football Championships. Sri Lanka also lost to Afghanistan 3-1 in their second match yesterday.
Well, it's a third goal now. It is.
Problems in the game didn't arise after we came here. We were not able to get good training. We didn't have stadium facilities because of the rain. We only had 50 days of training. Also, we have no competition locally. The standards of the game should be raised. When we come back to the country, we plan on starting a program for this.
And now moving into some tennis news. Spaniard Rafael Nadal showed why he's the favorite for the US Open title when he demolished fellow Spaniard Tommy Robredo 6-love, 6-2, 6-2 in New York last night in their quarter-final encounter.
In the Women's Open, second seed Victoria Azarenka cruised past Daniela Hantuchova to set up a semi-final clash with Italy's Flavia Pennetta.
Nadal was merciless right from the start against his 31-year-old compatriot, allowing Robredo only 5 points in an opening set lasting just 22 minutes. Nadal has yet to drop his serve in the tournament and broke Robredo's twice more in the third set before serving out the match in 1 hour and 40 minutes. Nadal will now face Frenchman Richard Gasquet in the semi-finals after he defeated Spaniard David Ferrer earlier yesterday. Second seed Victoria Azarenka beat Slovakia's Daniela Hantuchova 6-2, 6-3 to set up a US Open semi-final clash with Italy's Flavia Pennetta. Belarusian Azarenka took control after both players lost their opening service games, breaking the Slovak serve in the third and seventh games to pull clear. Azarenka had service struggles of her own and gave Hantuchova a glimmer of hope with a double fault that gave up a break to make it 5-3. But again, the Slovak was unable to capitalize and Azarenka ran out the comfortable winner.
And that, I'm afraid, brings us to the end of today's News First edition. I'm Madhushka Balasurya.
And I'm Shanali De Silva. Have a good night.
News First at 9. Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.